ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः. The nectar of thy words revives the scorched spirit of human beings. They purify the sinner and are the life of the holy. To hear them itself is auspicious and peace generating. They are the real givers who spread thy name far and wide. Om. Welcome to the Friday scripture class. And today's scripture is the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. As you remember from last time that we have been continuing advice to an actor chapter, chapter 22, and it was recorded on Saturday, May 24, 1884. And there had been a theatrical performance called Yatra in Dakshineshwar Temple, Nath Mandir. Yatra, or the local Bengal theater, that is done in open space. People can sit all around and can watch that. And the name of the theater was Vidya Sundar, where the role of Vidya is done by one actor. He was spiritual by nature. Sri Ramakrishna liked him. And after performing the worship whole night, and Sri Ramakrishna also happened to see that theater a little, he sat down and watched a little in the early morning. And after seeing that, taking rest, the actor and his friends had come to Sri Ramakrishna because they are told by someone that when you are going to Dakshineshwar, meet two persons, Gyanarnava and Swami Sri Ramakrishna. So they had come to Sri Ramakrishna. And then actor that played the role of Vidya was really a spiritual person, very spiritually inclined. So after having conversations on that we already studied when they came and Sri Ramakrishna praised their theatrical work and him. And now after that we come to page 429. And where Sri Ramakrishna tells about the importance of the holy company. And he says, by having the holy company, only one can understand a need of God and understand the reality about the spiritual teachings that makes us mind finer, minds become pure, and they can comprehend the spiritual teachings. Otherwise, it's not possible. And he gives the example: if you live with physician only, then you learn the nature of pulse. That physician means our local Indian physician, where they know the ailment by touching the pulse of a person. So when you are with them, you get a training of learning the pulse. Like that, when you are with the holy persons, then you know about God, you know about the reality, you know about the bliss of spiritual life. And that's why holy company is very important if you want to have a spiritual life. After saying that, this actor was very happy and he says, "Yes, sir, now I understand that how holy company is important for spiritual life." He was already ready to go. He said, "We are leaving now." And after that, this conversation started, you see, of Sri Ram, a long conversation. After that, like 1 page, 2 page conversation, after they were ready to go. Master, page 429. You must practice tapasya. Only then can you attain the goal. It will avail you nothing even if you learn the texts of scriptures by heart. You cannot become intoxicated by merely saying Siddhi over and over. You must swallow some. Very practical example he gives that even if we learn the verses of the scriptures or the quotations from the scriptures, you will not have spiritual awareness, spiritual knowledge, or spiritual joy. You will not have that. You have to practice the teaching of the scripture. So that's why he gives the example of siddhi is like some intoxicant. So this intoxicant has to be eaten through the mouth and should go into your stomach. Only then you become intoxicated. But keeping it close or even rubbing on your body will not make you intoxicated. Like that, scriptural truths and the message of the teacher If you do not practice what is taught, you will not enjoy the bliss of scriptural knowledge. So just by memorizing the verses and giving a talk, as Shankara said, Vag Vaikhari, Shabda Jhari, Shabda Shastra Vyakhyana Kausalam, that he said, that Shankara said, that you may have lot of words and explanations, but that is only for bhuktaye natu muktaye. That's for enjoyment of expressing, gaining the appreciation from the people, but it doesn't change your inner life. Just by saying the truth that is said in the scriptures, you should live up to what is taught. Then only you enjoy the scriptural truths, you become spiritual. So that is very important. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says tapasya is needed. And tapasya means that. Tapasya means focus. Tapasya means concentration on what you know. That's why it is said in the austerity, you'll find in the in Puranas, that is austerity is like standing on one feet with your both hands up. Those are only physical form of austerity. Those are meant to keep mind away from the body and to keep focus on in the thought of God. So we went to New Jersey, Swami Narayan Temple. That is one of the biggest temple. And this beautiful statue of Swami Narayana, the Nilakanta they call. When he was doing tapasya with standing on one feet with both hands up, golden, there is image, big image, life-size image of Nilakanta, or would be Swami Narayan, when he was doing very rigorous austerities in the Himalayas. But those are the physical austerity meant for focusing the mind to God away from the body. Body doesn't matter at all. So that is called tapasya, but we only see the external thing as tapasya. But internal tapasya is more important, focusing on the truths of scripture, focusing on the mind fully in the thought of God. So for that is done so that mind doesn't go to luxury or rest, it is kept alert. That's why this external forms are needed, external that we call postures are important for that, for some people. Otherwise, main focus is on the internal mind. The mind is focused on what you are pursuing, and that is called tapasya. Tapasya is giving heat. Heat means you withdraw mind from everything else and put fully on God. It is like meditation. And why it's called tapasya? Tapasya and meditation. Tapasya also is a sort of meditation. In the scriptures, when students came to research in Upanishadic scriptures, you'll find tadhi tapa, tadhi tapa. So practice tapasya, says the teacher. And he says, tapasa brahma vijigyasasva. Understand, realize the Brahman by tapasya. So tapasya is very important. So santosa tapaswadhyaya iswara pranidhana. Even in yoga, the tapak comes. Practice tapa. One of the 10 things that one should practice to become efficient in yoga is in yama and niyama. Is one of those among 10 is tapas. Tapas is focus, is withdrawing the mind from everything else, putting full mind in what you pursue. That's called tapas. So tapas is important. You must practice tapasya. Tapasya means you must be totally engrossed and involved in the truth, what you are studying, what you want to learn, where you want to reach. Otherwise, you won't get by even memorizing the verses. Even you can understand mentally and intellectually what is there and find a lot of new words, stories to explain that thing. It will be like what Sankara says, it will be for your popularity and enjoyment, and not for realizing the truth. Vag Vaikhari Shabdachari Shastra Vyakhyana Kausalam Vaidusyam Vidusam Tadvat Bhuktaye Natu Muktaye. That's for the intellectual people to show their intellect and erudition, and not for mukti or freedom or real thing that the scriptures can get. You become like the Sri Ramakrishna example. When such thing happens, when a person where such opportunity is provided, that you can find the truth and find the joy of the truth, You can understand, practice, and be spiritual and find the inner peace, inner strength, inner fearlessness. Instead of that, you read the things, beautiful verses, beautiful slokas, beautiful stories, and what you do, only enjoy that and explain that, and they look for what? You look for people's appreciation, praise, name, and it's like you just miss the target. Target is not this; these are just the minor things. Like Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of keeping sweetened puffed rice near the rice grain bags, so that when the rats and mice come, they will get that thing easily available and eat only that, and they don't go to the bags of rice. And he says this puffed rice and puffed paddy are 14 times lighter than the real rice, so they enjoy that and forget the real thing. They don't go to that. Our condition will be like that. Says that's why Sri Ramakrishna says you need tapasya. You need to go deeper. You need to find the truth, find the bliss of joy of spiritual knowledge by doing practice. This spiritual practice is also called tapasya. You must solve, and gives a very good example. You won't be intoxicated by just putting the intoxicant on your body, even rubbing by it, not only keeping near you. Nothing will help you to become. If you want to become intoxicated, you have to swallow the intoxicant. And so, if you want to become spiritual, you have to make the spiritual truths a part of your life. You should live that. Then only you will become spiritual. Sri Ramakrishna continues, one cannot explain the vision of God to others. One cannot explain conjugal happiness to a child of 5 years old. What a beautiful two examples that Sri Ramakrishna gives. One is that you have to practice spirituality to enjoy the spiritual awareness. Another, he gives the example of, and gives the example of siddhi, or the intoxicant, or that you have to, one, if you want to be intoxicated, he has to or she has to intake that. Not without that, that person will not have that intoxication. Similarly, one has to go deep into God and make that spiritual knowledge, love of God, their life. Then only they can enjoy that. Other example he gives, you have to uh, vision of God cannot be explained to others. So, what is the joy in finding God? So, this realization God is also expressed in various ways. We don't have the idea of what is meant by God vision, what is meant by knowledge of the self, what is meant by Brahma Jnana, what is meant by realization of God. That word itself has so many different varieties of ideas. Some say realization of God is like whomever you pray, like you pray to Krishna and Krishna comes in front of you. That itself, they see the vision of God. Uh, and other thing is when you have God comes to you and you have seen the God, you have realized God. One is that idea of God, realization, vision of God. Another is you have something awareness, some light you saw, that is the vision of God. So like that, there are many ideas of realization of God. And another thing is when you have still higher, you, as Sri Ramakrishna says, God becomes so real, not only vision. God can talk to you. You talk to God, you pray to God, God is listening, God becomes real to you. And still, real awareness of God's reality is God starts speaking to you. That Sri Ramakrishna validated very much as the realization of God. It is God is not only seen, God even speaks with you, God talks with you, God walks with you. And in Sri Ramakrishna's case, that happened. He saw two persons coming from his own body, one divine being, his own soul, and the God, and they were going and they were walking and talking like that with his jiva. So that thing is God realization is that way. And another thing in God realization is still is to be aware that I am the spirit, I am not this body. Body is just the covering. I am individual, but I am in reality the soul, which is not bound by this body, which is not of made of matter, which is a spiritual entity, uncreated and undying, and always blissful, untainted by its body and mind functions. It is been affected by the impurities of the mind or the disease of the body, and or the birth of the body or death of the body. Is not connected at all. Body mind is totally different from the soul. I am in reality soul. So such persons who have realized God become really spiritual means they find spirit as more real than this bodily existence. This existence of spirit becomes more real to them. Then that is called spiritual life or spiritual awareness. And what is that spirit? So one is idea, the spirit is individual self, jivatma, and you consider yourself as free and different from the body, but you are that spirit, not material. How much is that difference? So there are many other spirits. Those are all different spiritual entities. Me, one, another one, another one. This is one kind of realization. You start seeing everyone as the spiritual entity covered by the body, and body and mind, each one having that, but in reality, they are all spirit. That is one realization. It's called Dvaita realization. I and you, I and he. I. So this is a Dvaita realization. But the higher realization is when you understand your spirit to be the only reality, and that spirit who you perceive as the spirit in you is actually the spirit in everyone. There's no difference between the spiritual nature of yours and the spiritual nature of other person that you see. Then immediately you become one with all. That you and he are not separate. You and this universe is not separate. That becomes Advaita. When spiritual entity is the only reality, there's nothing else. That all is spirit that appears as this universe. So that is Advaita realization that Swami Vivekananda once said. I didn't say that there is God and there is the nature. God is and world is not. So this world as we see is not the reality. Only God is the reality. What does God is the reality means? What happens to the world? So all this can be understood when we become spiritually aware, when we live with the holy persons, when we listen to them, when we read the scriptures with depth, then only we can understand all this teaching. Otherwise, you don't understand Sri Ramakrishna. If we are not pure enough in our mind, we cannot comprehend the spiritual truth. And Sri Ramakrishna gives the example: one cannot explain conjugal happiness to a child of 5 years old. So practical. He has not maturity of anything. How can the child will understand anything about those things? So Sri Ramakrishna at another place says more clearly the how to express. This is about the knowing. And another thing he says how to express that. How to express the realization of God or joy of spiritual illumination. And he says, if one asks you, how does ghee taste? What you will answer? How will you say that? How does ghee taste? He says, ghee taste of ghee cannot be explained to you. It is neither sour nor sweet, nor bitter. Then how is ghee taste? How does ghee taste? So he said, ghee tastes like ghee. You have to taste ghee and then you understand how does ghee taste. So like that, you have to have the spiritual realization to understand the bliss of spiritual realization. It cannot be compared to anyone. Far distance, as he said, when I come down from samadhi, I come like many feet down, many cubits down, and then come to this world, the awareness of this world. Like that, the spiritual awareness is that when one tries to express the joy of spirituality or spiritual illumination, then one says like the joy to find something that you wanted for a long time and you get, like that joy. But that comparison is not the comparison of spiritual illumination, spiritual joy. That whatever is worldly joy is much lesser of lesser intensity than the spiritual joy. Sri Ramakrishna, when Swami Vivekananda came and said, have you seen God? He said, yes, I see God. And what he said next line, I see God more intensely than I see you. Can you imagine that? How can be more intense and clear than seeing a person standing in front of him? But Sri Ramakrishna says, I see God more intensely than I see you, and I can make you see God. So that is what the intensity of God realization. Because there is nothing of the mind. Mind is not there. It is direct perception. It is paroksha, aparoksha anubhuti. So when in direct perception, there is no intervention of this mind even. Mind with all its ramifications, all ideas and thinking, they create some this thing. When I see someone, there I have to have the eyesight clear, I have to have the mind clear, then I analyze the person how or what it is, and then the ideas, this person is good, bad, like that thing. Many things happen through our mind. We start judging through our mind the person, and then we perceive this person as that person. So in our perception, there is so many mistakes in perceiving a mind person. So, but in God, there is no mistake at all, because it is spiritual perception of the reality of your own self. So that's why it's most intense, most clear, most doubtless, and the most correct perception is the perception of God. That's why that perception cannot be, which is done beyond mind, cannot be described with the help of mind. That's why mind cannot express, the speech cannot express what realization of God means. The mind cannot think of what realization of God will be. Like that is thing in the Upanishads, yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasas. So the ultimate realization is mind and speech, they want to reach there. And while going, speech is left behind. Even mind is trying to reach there, but mind also falls behind. It also cannot reach there. They return back without reaching there. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya, without reaching mind and speech, they come back. That means mind and speech. Mind is unable to conceive of what God realization is. Speech is unable to express the experience of God realization. So that is what Sri Ramakrishna says. You cannot explain the God vision to a person, to any person. That's what Sri Ramakrishna beautifully said this. Um, he says, one cannot explain the vision of God to others. One cannot explain how it is. Sri Ramakrishna often tried to explain, but he says, Mother presses my tongue. That means he cannot, it is impossible to express the God realization. Something you can say like vaguely that compare, it's like having the highest joy in life. It is whatever joy people can feel. Many people feel joy in many things. Some feel joy in earning some money, some in winning the jackpot, some in having a big house. There are many dreams in life are there. So you can say like that in many times. In Upanishad also, in Taittiriya Upanishad, very nicely described. The joy of God illumination is like many-fold, like many-fold, thousands of fold of what the joy, worldly joy is there. Yuva syat sadhu, yuva dhyayaka, ashisto, dradhisto, balista. That type of person who is healthy, good natured, good character, and living a well life of well, you know, disciplined life, that person has a joy of, that's called unit of human joy. If you live unbridled life, there is no joy. The joy of disciplined life, young man and healthy body, clear mind, that joy is the real human joy, and that's one joy. So like that joy of then there is Gandharva joy, then is the Yaksha Gandharva, then there is like that many things are told one by step takes hundredfold of that joy is that the joy of Gandharva, and joy is Deva Gandharva is hundredfold of Manushya Gandharva, like that it goes, and finally comparing that at the end it goes to Brahmananda. And he said, how is Brahmananda? Many folds of human joy, a unit of human joy, many folds. And that he says, what type of the joy is? Oh, that joy cannot be expressed. The one who experiences that joy cannot even say what type of joy I had. He just said, ha, ooh, ha, ooh, ha, ooh. That is the expression of the person who experiences that joy. When he comes down from the experiencing of the joy to this waking state, then he expresses how, nothing he can say. So that type of joy cannot be expressed, cannot be thought of. So you cannot explain the joy of God vision to other people. Actor. How does one realize the Atman? See the actor's spiritual awareness, spiritual inclination. He's asking the question: how does one realize the Atman? Atma Jnana. He knows about that. How does one realize the Atman? Uh, just then, Rakhal was about to take his meal in the master's room. He hesitated at the sight of so many people. During those days, the master looked on Rakhal as Gopala and on himself as Mother Yashoda. So Rakhal used to stay with him. He was about 19, 20 years old, young man, and he used to eat in Sri Ramakrishna's room. And he saw so many people who were hesitant to eat. And Sri Ramakrishna says to Rakhal, Master to Rakhal, why don't you eat? Let the people stand aside if you wish it. To a devotee, keep some ice for Rakhal. To Rakhal, do you intend to go to Banhugli? Don't go in this sun. So Sri Ramakrishna eat there and ask people to sit aside and give him space. And because he's hesitating to eat in place of presence of so many people, let him eat. And he instructs him, don't go to Banhugli. Must have been planned to go to Banhugli, another area near Kolkata. And he said, don't go. It's very hard because it was the month of what he said, month of May. So already hot, May 24. So it was already hot. Don't go in this sun. So later on you can go like that. He was so concerned about Rakhal's welfare. Rakhal sat down to his meal. Sri Ramakrishna again spoke to the actor. Sri Ramakrishna was so happy to talk to this actor. Master, why didn't all of you take your meal from the kitchen of the Kali temple? That would have been nice. You should all have eaten, and there is prasad made that for Kali, Mother Kali offered there, and could have had prasad there. Actor says, all of us don't have the same opinion about food, so our food is cooked separately. All don't like to eat in the guest house. So somehow there is agitation. There is so much. Some people this about the food. So much of restriction is there about people don't want to eat the food that is cooked by something how they have touched. There's too much of food thing is there in Hinduism. So about that, they want to have their own cooking. Some used to have their own cooking as their choice of their food. So like that, this is no, all don't have that idea that it is Mother Kali's prasad and so holy. So they like to have their own food. It's all about vegetarian, non-vegetarian, who is cooking food. So like that, and the food has been cooked for them separately. That's what he said. Um, but Sri Ramakrishna said if he had eaten Mother's prasad, that would have been nicer. Mother prasad. Prasad removes the dirt of our mind and it purifies. That's why prasada. It makes our heart purified and mind happy. Prasada and prasanna, they come from the same root. All other food is cooked separately, but there was all cooked food is cooked separately, and they might go to eat. While Rakhal was taking his meal, the master and the devotees sat on the porch and continued their conversation. So they came out from the room, and just from outside the room is Sri Ramakrishna's porch, and in the porch they're looking towards the Ganga, and now they all sat by the side of Sri Ramakrishna on the steps, and that goes down and then to little space in there, and then goes to Ganga. Is very close to that. At the time, Ganga was seen from the porch. So room was left for Rakhal to eat food so that he doesn't feel hesitate. He doesn't hesitate to eat food in front of other people. Uh, Master to the actor. You asked me about self-realization. He remembers with all so many things about Rakal and all the things. The question of actor, that what is God realization of the Atman? How does one realize the Atman? You are master to the actor. You asked me about self-realization. Longing is the means of realizing Atman. A man must strive to attain God with all his body, with all his mind, and with all his speech. This is so beautiful. If you can imagine Jesus going to the Mount of Beatitude and giving the sermon that he gave, which is now known as Sermon on the Mount. There he must have sat on a rock there, and all sitting near him, and he started talking so beautifully about the real spiritual life. How does one have love, grow love for God? And he showed so beautifully that you have to love God with your whole soul. That's what Jesus had said. Here also, Sri Ramakrishna similarly sitting on the porch. Other all this actor and people of this theater all sitting around him, and Sri Ramakrishna is speaking in the same way, like they're giving the Sermon on the Mount. And what he said, even the message is so similar. A man must so there should be longing is the one thing. Without longing, so God realizes, and it's not possible. Sri Ramakrishna always said that yearning is very important to realize God. So longing is the one essential thing for realizing God. Longing is you want. Unless you want, how will you strive? Without wanting, without longing, nothing can be achieved. If you want to do something, if you want to achieve something, you first have how much of wish, how much of will you have to become that or to achieve that. Only then comes the opportunity to achieve. Otherwise, you cannot achieve that thing without longing. The worldly thing, even. So, for God, you need more stronger longing. So, that's what Sri Ramakrishna says. Longing is essential, one thing. And he says, a man must strive to attain God with all his body, with all his mind, and with all his speech. You see, just like Jesus, who said, "If love God thy Lord with all thy mind and with all thy heart, with all thy soul and with all thy strength." And here also he says, "Love, you strive to attain God with with all his body, with all his mind, and with all his speech." See, body, mind, and speech. These three things are we often say in Bengali, kaya, mano, bhakya. That's what we say. So kaya is body, one is mind, and the speech is the speech. Bhakya is speech. The whatever you have, this whole of your being has to be focused on that. In Hindi, often they say tan man dhan se. So there is not of vakya or speech, more about the external thing dhan they have brought. But kaya mano vakya with body, mind, and speech is more of thing that is intrinsic to you, to your personality. Dhan or wealth is something external. With all your whatever you have, with you have to try with that your whole being. What Jesus said, with all your soul and mind and with all your heart and with all your strength, the same thing. With whole of your being, you strive to attain something. Only then you can attain God. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna says. To attain God, you have to put whole of yourself, not the fragmented thing, not the partial thing. Then only you can attain God. So to attain God, one has to have longing, and your whole being has to be involved in the search of God, in spiritual pursuit. Then only you can attain, and there is a possibility for you to attain God. He gives the example. Uh, because of an excess of bile, one gets jaundice. Then one sees everything as yellow. One perceives no color but yellow. Among you actors, those who take only the roles of women acquire the nature of a woman. By thinking of woman, you always, your ways and thoughts become womanly. Just so, by thinking day and night of God, one acquires the nature of God. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. Fully, you have to involve yourself in some pursuit. Then only you can realize God. It's not an easy thing with a small portion of your mind. Give for little time, and you say God will come to you, or you have a spiritual illumination. That doesn't happen. You have to give full mind in God, and he gives the example of how one can have the attainment of God. And in that, he says, gives the example of the actor. Um, a man must strive God. Yes. Then one gives the two examples. One is the example of bile. So when one have jaundice, the bile in his blood becomes over, and this bile liver is not working nicely, and all the bile comes to the blood, and everything becomes yellow. Skin becomes yellow, eyes become yellow, his vision also becomes yellow. Everything is seems yellow that time. So that's what happens to a person who intends fully for God realization. You know, everywhere he'll perceive God it is said in the Bhakti Shastras that a true devotee of God starts seeing God in everything and everywhere, and little thing can ignite his vision of God. Like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to a village, and he asked, "What is the name of this village?" They said, "This is the name." And they all, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately went into samadhi by hearing the name of the village. Why? Because that village, from that village, the earth used to go to make some instrument in the temple of Shyam Sundar. And Shyam Sundar Krishna temple, by remembering that village name, then the earth, then the instrument of temple, and whose temple? Krishna's temple, Krishna. Mind immediately went to Krishna, to God, and he forgot everything external. He forgot all about himself, all about village, and mind went to Krishna. Little thing could ignite the memory and thought of Krishna. So much of involvement with God is there. Such persons see God in everything. Those who are whom they meet, all they seem like devotees of God, whom they connect, their actions, their thoughts, all concerned and connected with the divine. So that's what is seeing yellow, like a jaundice person sees yellow, everything as yellow. So like that, true devotees of God who are already intoxicated with the love of God see everything as divine and blissful. They find everything joyful. For them, nothing is there. So one person was eating, came to ask for something, food, and he was like a madman, but he was a very devotee of God, but lived nothing concerned he has with the worldly life. And he went to ask for food, nobody gave him food. So what he did is some leftover food was in the leaf plates were thrown there outside. And he went there and started eating that. And there were some dogs. He removed the dogs. And what he did is he started took a plate and sat on the dog and started eating the food. All the kids were there around. They saw this madman and they started laughing on that. What is he doing? Riding on a dog and eating the leftover food. And what a madman! They were all laughing. And this person was not a madman at all. He's mad for God, not a madman at all. Then he says one beautiful verse. He said, Vishnu parivistito Vishnu, Vishnu khadati Vishnave, katham hasaside Vishnu, sarvam Vishnu mayam jagat. So why are you laughing? Oh Vishnu, he says. And he said, Vishnu is sitting on a Vishnu, and Vishnu is eating Vishnu. Why are you laughing, Vishnu? The whole universe is nothing but Vishnu. For him, he says, I am Vishnu, dog is Vishnu, food is Vishnu, I am who is eating is Vishnu. So all this is Vishnu, and you who are laughing on me, seeing me as a madman, you are also Vishnu. There is nothing other than Vishnu in this whole universe. Everything is Vishnu for that man. Everything is the yellow color, nothing else. So that's how Sri Ramakrishna compares with the yellow color, that mind fully involved in God and seeing God in everything. And that's one thing he said. And another thing he said about how practice can make person totally involved in the search of God. And he said, gives the example of actor. Actually, this is from this actor only. This actor was doing the acting of Vidya, and he was very doing perfect acting of Vidya as a woman. And he says that thinking of God, one person become godly and sees God everywhere, like one person acting of a woman's role in the theater. So in the drama, he starts and he does a woman's role. So he has to imitate woman's walking, woman's talking, woman's behavior, woman's movement, and he does like that. After doing long time in the theater, his normal behavior is also becomes like woman in his normal behavior also, because he is so much doing that acting doing, and becomes practical and natural in his life. Though he's a male person, he's acting, doing the acting, he becomes like a woman. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna says. When you are involved with God, so God becomes a component of your life. Always you think of God and you see God everywhere, and your own acts, thoughts, behavior all start becoming godly. Thinking of Krishna, you become Krishna. As the Krishna is the friend of all, and you become the friend of all. As Krishna only wishes good to others, you become all wishing good to all people. And Krishna is fearless, you become fearless. As Krishna has only Krishna thinks of only divine, and he is aware of divine nature. You are also become aware of your divinity. That is what, when one thinks of God, one becomes godly. That's why it is said, Devo Bhutva Devam Ajayet. When you become God, then only you can worship God. So when you worship God, thinking yourself as divine, and gradually in that case, you start behaving like a divine being. The long thinking of God makes you divine. So think of God more and more, says Sri Ramakrishna. Without that, he will give another example how this mm, color of God has to come to you. So God should become fully a part of our life in everything that we do. One nice thing about spirituality is God can be made a part of all our worldly activities, worldly relationship. God should become a part of that thing. So that is possible, they say. See a person like divine, your own family members, as the manifestation of divinity. Treat them as if you are treating God. Love them, respect them as you are respecting God. So by that way, you start manifesting the divinity that is in you, and divinity that you perceive outside. So perceive everything in the world as divine. So when you do that, then you start so much of love for everything in the world. There is no hatred for anyone, or your hatred goes away. When the hatred goes away, there is nothing that you expect from others, and you seek honor and all that, and you seek more praise and that. Nothing is there. When hatred goes away, there what you inculcate, what you develop within you is forgiveness. Because if you don't have hatred, there is no way we feel for the revenge or anything. All you have forgiveness, love, and appreciation for others. This is what is called spiritual progress. So Sri Ramakrishna beautifully says about the methods of spiritual progress, method of loving God, method of bringing God in your life, thinking, and that's why it says, love God and think of God with all your body, with all your speech, and all your mind. Kaya Mano Vakya. With that, you think of God and have a longing to realize God, and God will come. It will manifest to you. It is possible to have God realization for every human being. Just you need to have that wish with you, and the life becomes blessed with God coming to you. Thank you very much for today's talk. Now, with the closing chant, we close today's scripture class. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu.